Hey guys, this is Bluffmunkey for Sonic Academy, and in today's video we're going to learn how to use Parallel Aggressor. So this is, funny enough, I did a video last week for some of the tech tips where I described how I was using parallel processing in Ableton Live to process my kick drums, and I did that manually with an Ableton effect rack. And then, funnily enough, the same week this plugin came into my inbox, and it does kind of the same thing. It allows you to mix in dry signal with a heavily compressed signal. It's got a dynamic section and a distortion stroke saturation section as well. I will put down here the signal flow from the manual so you can see you've got one channel for the compressor, then there's another one for the saturation and the distortion, and then there's another channel for the dry. Because they run in parallel, you can mix and match between them. So let's get stuck in and have a look at it now. Okay, so I've created a little project here, as I usually do. Let's just have a quick listen to it without any effects whatsoever. So it's kind of tribal, housey kind of thing. I'm hearing a bit of Middle Eastern in the drums, not quite sure, but that's what I've done. So we know what we're starting with. In terms of the user interface, the first thing to note is up here, there's a little button that allows you to swap between different skins. I'm actually favouring the grey skin on my monitor. I've got a 4K monitor, and some of it's quite hard to see when it's in the dark mode. Moving across here, we've got preset management at the top. I'm not going to go into that because it's all fairly self-explanatory. You can reset the plugin here. And then something that I'm not sure if it's mentioned in the manual, but if you click on the Baby Audio logo here, it allows you to bypass the plugin without having to come down here and do it in Ableton Live. And then we've got three sections. Over on the left here, we've got the compression section, well, they call it spank. We'll come back to that in a second. Then in the middle, don't like this skin. In the middle, we've got the dry level. We've got sliders to balance between the dry and the compressed and the distorted signal. And we can solo those out as well if we wanted to. And then over on the right, we've got the heat section, which is basically saturation, stroke, distortion. Now, the amount of the effect is controlled by these wheels here. One thing I wouldn't mind is if in an update they change these to something more linear, because at a glance it's not immediately obvious what this is set at. You have got the little orange ring that increases, but it's not visually, it's not easy enough to read visually for me, just at a glance. But as soon as you mouse hover over the dial, it becomes quite clear what the value is between 1 and 100. So it's not the end of the world. And then down on the spank section, we've got extra punch, which is even more extreme compression. Extra smack, even more pronounced compression. And then we've got a sidechain filter. So as with most compressors, this filter will filter out the bottom end before compression happens. So that can keep the bottom end present in a compressed signal, because compressors tend to grab onto high headroom, low frequency signals and absolutely smash them. Especially when it's set up like this one. The compressor has what they call an auto detect algorithm. So you don't have control over the compression parameters. It tries to figure out for itself what it needs to do given the incoming signal. And then finally, we've got a mono button here. Obvious what that does. Now, the auto gain, excuse me, for me, this is the most important button on the plugin. Sounds weird, but it is, because whenever you're compressing or saturating, you're automatically going to get an increase in volume. And having the ability to set this auto gain, and they do say in the manual, it's as close as we can get it. It tries to match the volume levels of the dry and the wet signal. So as you're processing the signal, it's not getting any louder. And it's so important for you to be able to judge what you're actually doing, rather than just making it louder and assuming it's getting better. So I leave that on all the time. So over to the heat section, we've got extra hot, so it's more extreme distortion. We've got tone. What they say in the manual is this increases the presence of the mid-range. So it's a good way of kind of boosting that mid-range that you might want to push forward in certain sounds. And then we've got a high pass and a low pass filter. But importantly, this is post effects, if you remember from the signal flow diagram. Down there. So the filter is post effect. So these filters occur after the saturation and distortion. So first thing I'm going to put this on is the kick. So let's solo this out. Let me just bypass the plugin for a second. And in fact, what I'll do as well is I just want to pull in Pro L. Where did that go? Oh, I don't know where I put that. There it is. Put it back where I want it. Don't need that. Right, so what we're doing, I'm using Pro L. There's no actual processing going on. Let's just increase the size a bit. Medium's fine. This is something I wish you could do with Parallel Aggressor. It's just increase the size of the plugin, but you can't. So there we are. So let's have a look in Pro L what the kick looks like. So nice rounded peaks. So what I want to do is solo the compression section or the spank section and just have a listen to what it's doing to this kick. So if you look inside the display of Pro L, you can actually see the transient of the kick is being massively increased by this compression section. Bypassed. Doesn't matter that it's getting louder. Just have a look at the shape of it, because that's what we're trying to focus on. Extra punch. I'm doing it even more. See, the body of the kick at this level is staying roughly where it was before. Extra spank. Even more extreme. I'm not sure we need that. Let's pull it back to extra punch. And I'm also going to enable the sidechain filter because I do want some of the low end back in the kick. Even though we're blending it with the dry, I want to hear the compressed low end as well. Yeah, that's better. So let me just A/B this. Yeah, so I'm just pushing the transient through a little bit, which I'm going to blend back in with the dry. So for me, the kick I've chosen, I like this kick, but in the context of all the other sounds going on, it's a little bit flabby. It gets a little bit lost because it doesn't have that much punch in itself. So coming over to the saturation section, let's just see what it does vanilla. Hard style. Yeah, I mean, this isn't the sound I'm particularly a fan of. Let's try extra hot. Yeah, it's just doing it even more. Let's try the mid-range. Just turn this up a bit. Yeah, the mid-range I'm liking because it's got that, it's like a knock around, probably around 400-600 hertz, something like that. And we're using the dials. The dials in the GUI of the plugin are where I would find the sweet spot. Obviously, the levels are adjusted by the fader, but it's this dial here. I'm using that to find the sweet spot that I like. Maybe around there. So let's blend this in with the rest. Yeah, probably around there. I don't want it too distorted. I don't want there to be too much of that hard style kind of kick. Right, so what I'm going to do now is listen to that with the rest of the mix going on. We can lose Pro L now. So bypass it. So it immediately punches through the mix. And one thing I'll note, now I've distorted the kick a bit more, I can hear that the kick's out of tune with the mix. I'm not going to worry about that now, but I've spotted it. Yeah, so as soon as you bypass this, the kick kind of disappears. It's not any louder in the mix, it's just more prominent. Right, okay, so now on to the bass line. The bass line's very, very subby. If you can, listen to this with headphones or monstrous speakers. So let's come back to Baby Audio and fire this up. Okay, let's listen to the bass line. So all I'm doing so far is LFO tooling it. I'm just ducking it out of the way of the kick. So if I take the bass line out of the mix as it's playing, you can hear that it's not there, but I'm not really getting the bass line in the mix. I'm not able to define exactly what it's doing. So I'm going to try and be a little bit heavy-handed with this, and I'm going to massively overcompress it to more or less distortion levels in the compressor. And we're going to add quite a lot of heat to it, but it should still show as a sub bass in the mix. So let's have a quick look at this. That's it. So I'm going to put the sidechain filter on to allow the bottom end to come through. But you can hear that clipping inside the compressor already. And in most cases, that's not what you'd want. But in this case, it is what I want. I want there to be something coming through. So let's just blend that with the dry signal. Okay, then over to the saturation. I'm going to take the bottom end out of this bit. Something around there. So let's pull this back into the rest. Yeah, I think that's about right. So let's A-B it. As soon as I take the Aggressor plugin off, you're going to hear it pull right back to that sub only. So something to notice here, in isolation, this sounds quite over-processed. And in most respects it is, but like I said, I want to do something that's going to push this through the mix, but also something that will work better on smaller speakers. So for example, let's just have a quick squiz at Spectrum. Just want to quickly show you what this is doing. Let's put this up to here. Right, so with the plugin on, have a look at all this mid information here. So say between 100, probably all the way up to about 5K. Let's just get this out of the way. So from here all the way over to here, just have a look at all this information. When I switch this plugin off, see how much of it disappears, how much lower this is now. So it's all these harmonics that we're adding with this plugin that are going to help the bass sound push through not only this mix, but also push through on speakers that aren't these, or headphones. On headphones, obviously you can hear it, but if you're listening on a phone or a laptop, you wouldn't hear this at all. With that, you probably would. So I'm going to switch it off in the mix as well. Back on. So you can just hear that little mid-range presence. It helps it really kind of sit through the mix. I've said that 3 or 4 times. I think you get it by now. Okay, so now onto the percussion. What am I looking for? Parallel aggressor. So all I've done with the percussion is, just switch this off a sec. Off. I've added some vintage verb, quite a short reverb, like that. But I've kept the mix level right down. I don't want it too prominent on its own. And then I've high passed it at 200 hertz, just because we don't need any of that guff down there. So what I want to do, excuse me again, with the plugin is, first of all, I'm going to smash it to bits with a compressor, because I want it to pump a bit and I want it to pull the reverb out. Yeah, I want to put that reverb pulled out. So turn everything on. This is going to be too loud for the auto gain to pick up on properly, I think. Yeah, we're going to switch everything on. Probably a little bit too much. Right, let's blend that in with the dry. I'm just going to take the output down a bit because it is getting too loud. Off. Just lifts it. And then we are going to go on to the saturation. I'm feeling the midtones here, I think. Yeah, have a listen to those. They're not actually congas. I don't know what they're called, these ones. They're more like Middle Eastern or Asian percussion drums. Yeah, it's really grabbing onto those. Right, let's mix this in. Off. It just kind of livens up. If you hadn't already noticed, I put this on a bus. You've got 3 separate things going on here. So I've put this plug-in, I've bust them all together. I should have mentioned that, but I didn't, sorry. Just going to take the output down a little bit more. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, it opens it up. And this is something that you'll find a lot maybe with parallel compression. When you massively overcompress something and bring it into the drive mix, you might find that the thing that you're compressing just opens up. It feels like there's more space in the sound, even though there isn't. All together. Right, let's switch things on and off once again so you can hear what it's doing. Right, remember the kick drum, we've given it more punch. When I turn parallel compressor off, parallel aggressor, beg your pardon. When I turn it off, the kick should mellow down and kind of pull back in the mix a bit. Job done. The bass line, we've massively over-processed in order to make it sit through the mix a little bit. Listen to the bass line. Off. Yeah, it really does it's still there, obviously, it's a massive subby bass, but it just kind of sits down in the mix when we turn this off. And then with the percussion group, we are livening up and giving it room to breathe, so to speak. Yeah, awesome plugin. This is the kind of stuff that I don't enjoy doing normally, but with a plugin like this, it just makes this whole task so much easier. It can be very, very heavy-handed, and I like the way they've got the user interface set up so that you can tweak and blend. It's fairly new by a company called Baby Audio, and it's currently on sale, or an introductory price of $29. So highly recommended. I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Thanks everybody for watching, commenting, and indeed liking. We really do appreciate all the support we get here on our Sonic Academy YouTube channel. So if you found this video super useful, please, we'd love you to hit the subscribe button. We update the YouTube channel every week with new content. And if you want to watch some more relevant content, just click on the videos beside me.